In the immediate post-war years of 1946 and 1947, Hollywood turned its gaze to homecomings. On screen, these reunions played out tenderly, echoes of what countless families across the country had just lived. But beyond the embraces and parades lay a harder truth. Millions of men were demobilized and faced the daunting task of rebuilding lives after years defined by combat.
You don't go through hell and high water and stay unchanged. You don't see your friends die or badly hurt and stay the same.
The challenges were profound: finding work in a shifting economy, reconnecting with loved ones after long separations, and also carrying the invisible weight of trauma and dislocation.
I'm not the same guy that left home 4 years ago.
For the servicemen discharged in the year after VJ Day, many of them returning all at once to a country that had not yet fully transitioned to a peacetime economy, veterans organizations and government agencies were overwhelmed. Hollywood stepped into this gap with films that translated these social realities into personal stories. And in doing so, they provided not just entertainment, but also a form of social education, helping civilian audiences understand the scale of the adjustment and offering veterans the comfort of recognition. The film most remembered for capturing this moment is William Wyler's The Best Years of Our Lives. A handful of smaller, less celebrated pictures also offered poignant glimpses of what came after the homecoming, when the parades ended and everyday life began again. In this video, I want to take a look at two of those films, Till the End of Time and From This Day Forward. Till the End of Time shows the illusion of normalcy, a world unchanged though its veterans are not. From This Day Forward takes a longer view, showing how a generation already hardened by the Depression entered the war years with little stability to begin with, and faced peace not as a return, but as yet another frontier.
And even beyond forever.
Adapted from Thomas Bell's 1936 novel All Brides Are Beautiful and directed by John Barry, From This Day Forward stars Joan Fontaine and Mark Stevens, and it's one of the quietest but most resonant entries in Hollywood's post-war cycle. Barry's film shares their seriousness, but takes a different tack. Instead of focusing only on the immediate aftermath of World War II, it broadens the lens. It traces a working-class couple, not just through homecoming, but across two eras: the struggles of the late Depression and the challenges of readjustment to the uneasy peace of 1946.
How do you know what's going to happen next?
That's right.
How do you know we ain't going to have another depression?
At the center are Bill and Susan Cummings. He's a precision machinist and she works in the bookshop. They're not larger-than-life figures, and their story doesn't unfold in sweeping gestures. Instead, it's told through modest, deeply human details: job searches, family dinners, and the stubborn compromises that keep a marriage alive.
It's not enough.
From the beginning, we see the obstacles that define Bill's return.
What kind of work were you doing before?
I was third lathe operator.
Look, lady, in the Army, I filled out forms for 4 years. What I want is a job.
He's eager to work, eager to build a life, but the jobs aren't there.
It's just routine. When you want a job, you've got to answer questions. The same questions. And you want a job.
Like many veterans, Bill turns to the U.S. Employment Bureau to help soldiers transition back into the workforce.
What about a guy like Jones here who wants a better job than when he went in? The United States Employment Service has 1,500 offices throughout the country with a special Veterans Employment Representative to assist ex-soldiers in finding the right job.
Yet the gap between policy and reality is stark. The film's employment office sequence bristles with frustration.
You know, there's no space on the form to ask what you'd like to do. All it asks is what you did before. Well, I've never worked.
Maybe you did something in the Army or learned something.
I did. I learned to drop bombs.
For someone like Bill, who previously worked as a machinist, the bottlenecks of reconversion were especially sharp. Wartime industries were shutting down, but peacetime industries had not yet expanded to absorb the flood of returning workers.
While the nation groans under a mountain of commodities designed for war and only partially adaptable to peace, and factory spaces jammed with surplus goods, returning veterans and war workers will stand idle. Stagnation will interfere with the right to work and earn a living.
So his frustration really echoes the broader national mood of 1946, a year that saw the largest strike wave in U.S. history as labor unions demanded that the promises of post-war prosperity actually be fulfilled.
Because when the boys got back, they saw for themselves. Exactly where were those fat paychecks we were supposed to be getting while they lay in the foxholes? Who was getting them? This time, the corporations had miscalculated. The boys joined up with us.
Because remember, friends, even in the 30s, prosperity was always just around the corner. A key point from this day forward is that Bill and Susan were already forged in years of struggle. The Great Depression left a deep imprint. So Bill and Susan's story reflects this continuity. Their struggles aren't just post-war. They're part of a long chain of instability spanning almost 2 decades.
Susie, I lost my job.
Yeah, I heard you, Bill. It's gonna be all right. Maybe better. I still got my job and got some money saved.
$35.
And they remind us that homecoming could mean very different things depending on class, location, and circumstance. Ultimately, from this day forward, insists that rebuilding after war is not mythic. It's personal. There is only the decision to keep choosing each other day after day across depression and war and the uneasy peace that followed.
Till the end of time, long as stars are in the blue, long as there's a string of birds to sing, I'll go on loving you.
Directed by Edward Dmytryk and adapted from Niven Bush's novel, Till the End of Time was one of the first Hollywood dramas to take on the question of what awaited veterans after the war.
You left college in the middle of your freshman year,
Right after Pearl Harbor.
You're going back to school, I suppose.
Well, I hadn't thought about it.
It has often lived in the shadow of the best years of our lives, but Till the End of Time is just a different experience altogether. It's less polished, but in some ways it offers a more revealing portrait, especially in how normalcy could be both reassuring and suffocating. At its center is Cliff Harper, the Marine who has served in the South Pacific and comes back home to Southern California. Before his enlistment, he was studying engineering at USC, and he returns to a safe, financially secure home. His parents live in a sunny suburban neighborhood. His father is a successful professional and a World War I vet.
Women don't understand us fighting men, son. Glad to have you back from the wars.
Glad to be back.
On the surface, Cliff's homecoming looks like the fantasy every American family longed for. When he arrives, the spare key is still hidden in the flower pot by the kitchen, just as it always was. Inside, his mother's got food baking in the oven. The house is filled with warmth and familiarity. It is the literal return to normalcy. But the film makes clear that internally, Cliff has changed. The war has left its mark on him in ways his mother, father, and community cannot fully see.
All my folks had a barbecue last night. Turned out to be a homecoming. Half of them were afraid if they said anything, it'd upset me, and the other half were afraid if I said something, I'd upset them.
Look, my friend, let's face it. Nobody's going to listen to us.
His father understands some of what his son carries, but only to a point, because the father's war is not the son's.
Come on, son. Rise and shine. Up and at 'em. Hit the deck.
And his mother, well, she just wants to erase the war altogether. She believes silence and cheerfulness will wipe all the darkness away.
Anybody who talks about another war is out of his mind. Those foxholes sure can stink.
Clifford, darling, please don't live in the past.
Not recognizing that the wounds run deeper than optimism can reach.
Just not like old times.
Maybe that's because old times is 3.5 years ago, Dad.
Cliff's budding romance also underscores this. He meets Pat Ruscombe, played by Dorothy McGuire, a lonely war widow. Pat longs for affection but cannot open her heart to new love. Grief and memory keep her bound to the past.
Why John married me because when he went to war, he wanted to be able to dream of home. That's why I married him. I wanted him to have that dream. The thing I didn't count on is at the end of the war, John's coming home would be my dream. And the war is over. And John isn't coming home. And I'm stuck with my dream.
Dorothy McGuire's Pat, she represents the tens of thousands of women who face peace not as a reunion, but as a permanent absence. And the human toll really comes through in voices from the era. In December 1946, a 24-year-old widow wrote to advice columnist Dorothy Dix, "2 years ago, I lost my husband, and I am still sunk in grief. My friends are dropping away from me. I do nothing, and I know I will never get over losing him." This is a woman still adrift. For some women, that grief stretched across decades.
Now almost 99 years old, Lieutenant King's widow, Elizabeth Cummins, wants to bring his remains home.
So I can have some closure.
Those two stories show both the immediate and enduring reality of wartime widowhood. The film reminds us that not all wounds are visible, but they can remain life-altering. So what emerges is a portrait of paradox. Cliff returns to safety, prosperity, and a future that should be smooth, but he feels unmoored.
How about school? Starts Monday. Made up your mind about it?
I made up my mind about one thing, Dad. And that is not to make up my mind. For a while yet.
You can see that he's remembering some battle he was in, or at least parts of it, and that his remembering has no relationship to where he is.
Going back to From This Day Forward, there's a moment in the employment office that serves as a shorthand for trauma.
It's only rain.
One of the most haunting sequences until the end of time comes not at a home or in a hospital, but at an ice skating rink.
Excuse me a minute.
Anybody looking?
Today, we know this as post-traumatic stress disorder, but the official military terms of the era were battle fatigue and psychoneuroses.
Everybody is afraid some of the time. And everybody going into battle is always afraid, at least if they're normal like us.
Director John Huston tried to tackle this head-on in his 1946 documentary Let There Be Light, shot inside a military psychiatric hospital. And his cameras captured the slow, grinding process of therapy and healing with a rawness that scripted dramas never dared.
That is, are you aware of the fact that you are not the same boy that you were when you went over? Do you feel changed?
Yes.
In what way?
More jumpy.
I'm not doing this deliberately, so please believe me.
I do believe you. A display of emotion is sometimes very helpful.
I hope so, sir.
Sure, it gets it off your chest.
I had trouble sleeping, yes. Had dreaming of combat, you know.
I just took off because I seen too many of my buddies gone, and I figured the next one was for me. A man can just stand so much up there, see.
Hollywood was allowed to gesture towards the reality. And that gap between what could be shown and what could not also shaped another genre.
I can't remember. I just can't remember, Doctor.
Film noir. So if these message dramas translated trauma through the language of family and community, noir pushed it into shadows and paranoia. Here, the returning vet was not just scarred, but destabilized, unsure of his place in the post-war order, and unsure in his place in a new world. The most striking examples, I think, are films that use amnesia plots. So Somewhere in the Night, The High Wall, The Crooked Way are great examples. These are men who come home and they can't remember who they are. They're cut off from their own past, and they're wandering through cities that do not feel like home.
Sure, it scares you to go out into a world you don't remember. But you're here now.
The Crooked Way, in fact, took this idea to its darkest conclusion. John Payne plays a decorated soldier who learns he was once a gangster. So he's trapped between the honorable man that he thinks he is and his pre-war criminal identity that he can't escape.
You think you come back here with a dumb look and a silver star? That changes a no-good heel?
But I'm trying to tell you that...
You don't have to tell us anything about yourself. We've got it all down in black and white. Read it, Riccardi. We didn't dream it up.
Some dark stuff. In Dead Reckoning, Humphrey Bogart returns from war only to be plunged into violence and treachery as if the battlefield had followed him home. And by the time we get to 1949's Act of Violence, the stories get even darker. Van Heflin plays a vet living a very prominent suburban life, but he's pursued by Robert Ryan, who knows the terrible truth about his wartime past. So these stories expose the underside of the homecoming fantasy. The unsettling idea that the war didn't end overseas, but it lived in memory, in guilt, and, in its darkest iteration, unresolved debt. So while films like From This Day Forward, The Best Years of Our Lives, and Till the End of Time ask how men might re-enter domestic life, noir cracks the mirror and asks what happens if they can't. What if return brings not stability, but alienation? The shadows, the silences, the splintered narratives of film noir gave expression to that unease, capturing the truth that, for many, coming home was not an ending, but just another battlefield.
Give me that. Take it easy, sweetheart. What's that picture? Hold it.
While film noir takes us into the deep end of despair, Till the End of Time and From This Day Forward, they end on notes of quiet optimism.
Hey, Bill, did you hear about Susie? She's gonna have a baby.
Yeah.
Did you get a job yet, Bill? Hey.
A fragile but undeniable sign of hope for the future. And in Till the End of Time, the closing image is of Pat and Cliff in an embrace, choosing to move forward together in spite of grief and scars. Seen side by side, these films remind us that the end of the war was not the end of struggle. Love, commitment, and partnership may not erase the trauma, but they offer a path of healing through it. These are the everyday victories of ordinary life, and perhaps the truest reflection of what homecoming really meant. There are 8 million stories in the cinema cities. This has been one.
Long as stars are in the blue, long as there's a spring, a bird to sing, I'll go on loving you.